Exploration. Try shouting that word in your head. Try to imagine places that you can when you hear the word exploration. What did you imagine? Forests, mountains, oceans, cities? All of these make what? A world full of beautiful views, amazing architecture, and manifestation of art. But there's one more part to this world that makes it worth living: humans. Did any of you think of that? You may have explored that external world around you, or may want to in the near future. But today, I want to take you guys to explore yourselves, that inner you, and understand that inner self. Now, behavior. It plays a crucial role in defining a human. All the actions that are taken by a human, people like you, me, we go through several emotions in making that first decision. But people in this world are so stressed about it. Let me give you an example of an high school kid. So, this kid, right before his high school, he's given three options to choose from for his career: science, arts, and commerce. However, this kid is listening to the word career for the first time in his life. He has no clue what career is and on what basis should he choose. How do you make that first decision? How do you take that first step of your life? That is what is going on in this person's head right now. Interestingly, he chose science. You know why? People around him told him that there is a lot of scope in this particular stream. But to this kid, he doesn't even know how to define the word scope in terms of his life. Now, before all of this was happening, let me give you a little brief of the student. So, he loves playing cricket. Number one point to note: he loves playing cricket, he loves participating in different activities, he's performing well. Everything is great. In fact, he wants to be a cricketer. He wants to play cricket for his country and represent it on a national television. How cool is that? This kid is dreaming big until he made the decision to choose science as his major, because cricket was not an option for him. This ambitious kid lost all his hope. He tried his best to pursue his passion, but he was pulled back by the society. He started to realize that science was something he was never really interested in, and it became too difficult for him to understand what was going around him. He became unrecognizable. Maybe at this point, he couldn't even recognize who he was because he couldn't think straight. This has happened with every person in this world. You must have felt lost at some or the other point in your lifetime. A few days back, I read this article by New York Post which I found quite amusing. It said that one third of Americans admitted that they had no future plans after graduating from their schools. Can you believe that? One third. This sudden change of path in life traumatized this student. But how do you define trauma? Everybody has their own definition. Let me give you what one of my favorite influencers and how he defines it. Jay Shetty. Most of you must have heard of his name, but for the people who don't know him, he used to be a monk for 3 fulfilling years. And after those years, he went back into the real world to share his learnings. And he says that trauma is an event when someone is exposed too much to something too soon. It's almost like a psychic wound. But what happens to a wound when it starts healing? It becomes a scar. And what are the properties of a scar? It's hard, it's rigid, it's dry. Something similar happened with a friend right here. He became hard, he became rigid in nature, didn't talk, didn't pay attention. Even his performance dropped, not only in studies but also in cricket, which he loved so much. No one had any clue what happened to the student, or should I say, to me. Yeah, that student I just told you about was my high school story. But this version of me that you see in front of you today was hiding somewhere inside that kid, watching over everything and every part of his life. Just couldn't do anything but keep that little flame of hope burning. Every time that kid started to question his life, I gave him hope and told him to give it another try, trying things that he never did before, talking to a stranger about his problems, sharing his emotions, taking that first step. Let me ask you this: have you ever seen a tree grow? I believe you must have, and you must have noticed that it never grows from its trunk, which is the hardest part of its whole structure. Its softer parts have the potential to develop into leaves, into flowers, into fruits. In other words, it grows from its vulnerabilities. Similarly, in life, in order to grow, you need to let down your defenses. I shared my opinions, my views, my feelings with my first ever audience. I let my vulnerabilities be visible. After the auditions, believe it or not, I cried like hell because I couldn't deliver the content the way I expected. But that moment when I got off of that podium was also my eureka moment. That's when I realized, ladies and gentlemen, that this was the moment when I should let that scar fade. I was rigid for too long and I should let that inner me take control. Doesn't matter if you receive the results the way you expect them. I never expected to get selected for the way I executed my content. Just take that first step. Don't overthink 15 moves ahead in time. You don't have to make it as complicated as a chess game. Those pre moves are your vision of what actions you're about to take. It's good for reference. Make it your reference point, but don't rely on them. Just focus on your first step and then the next and then the next. You'll see everything falls in line. And with that, I want you all to ask yourselves, are you ready to take that first step? Thank you.